Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
Terror struck in Tel Aviv in the midst of the Passover holiday today. 8 people were killed and some 60 wounded, including 2 in critical condition, when a suicide bomber detonated his deadly charge at the old central bus station in the heart of Tel Aviv. A short time ago, the Islamic Jihad terror group identified the bomber as Sami Salim Hamad, who is listed as age 20 but appears to be no more than 14 or 15 years old. Ellie Walker-Lerner has more in this story.
Police believe a Palestinian wearing a suicide belt walked into the Rosh Ha'ir falafel stand around 1:30 this afternoon and blew himself up. Islamic Jihad and the Fatah al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade have both claimed responsibility for the attack. It was the same falafel eatery in the Neve Sha'anan neighborhood that was hit by a suicide bomber just 3 months ago. An eyewitness at the scene said that he saw a man with a bag near the falafel stand being searched by a security guard just prior to the bombing. Another eyewitness said that he saw the bomber scuffle with a security guard and then detonate the explosive device. Security forces were also reported to be in pursuit of a suspicious blue commercial Mitsubishi seen fleeing the scene of the attack. The blast shattered the windshields of cars and blew out the windows of nearby buildings as glass shards and blood splattered the ground. Bottles and other debris were scattered up to 25 meters from the site of the blast. Some bystanders were in severe shock after the explosion. As the wounded were rushed to 4 hospitals in and around Tel Aviv. Security forces had received numerous security warnings over the Passover holiday, specifically regarding a number of attempts by Islamic Jihad. A government spokesman said that Israel holds the new Hamas-led Palestinian Authority government responsible for the bombing. A member of the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade told Reuters by telephone that it had carried out the attack to avenge, quote, Israeli massacres committed against our people in Gaza. Palestinian negotiator Saeb Erekat condemned the bombing.
We condemn this attack, and on behalf of President Mahmoud Abbas Abu Mazen, we condemn this attack, as we have always condemned attacks targeting civilians, whether Palestinians and Israelis. Such attacks harms Palestinian interests, and we call upon all Palestinians to abide by the cessation of violence reached in the Cairo Agreement.
Ellie Walker-Lerner now joins us live by telephone with an update on the bombing and the search for the perpetrators. Ellie, what's the latest?
Yochanan, security authorities apprehended 3 suspects late this afternoon who are believed connected to the Tel Aviv bombing. The suspects were arrested on Highway 443, that secondary road connecting Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, which also provides access to the Ramallah area. Authorities have closed 443 near the IDF Ophir base as bomb demolition experts are inspecting a suspicious vehicle feared to contain an explosive device. Israeli Police Chief Moshe Karadi said there were no specific warnings of a planned attack in the Neve Sha'anan area of southern Tel Aviv. Officials are now saying that there are at least 80 general and 17 specific terror alerts nationwide. Meanwhile, hospital officials released a statement this afternoon asking the public to donate blood. Magen David Adom officials are calling on people with type O blood to donate at major blood centers around the country, including Jerusalem, Tel HaShomer Hospital in Tel Aviv, and in Akko. They say that donation centers have been set up to accommodate an influx of people from now until 9 o'clock tonight and tomorrow morning between 8 o'clock and 12:30. Yochanan?
Thank you, Ellie Walker-Lerner.
The Israeli occupation forces continue to pound residential areas north of the Gaza Strip, killing Mamdouh Abeid, a 17-year-old local resident, and injuring 3 others in the area of Talat Taklub. Amidst ongoing Israeli escalation, enemy warships fired several mortar shells along coastal areas of the city of Rafah.
كسبول مع 10 سي سي While playing soccer with my friends, a mortar shell fell nearby. I was hit by the shrapnel. Our neighbor Mahmoud was playing soccer with us. He was also hit by a shrapnel in his abdomen. I was carried to an emergency room at a local hospital. As 3 or 4 mortar shells fell nearby, my friends were unable to carry Mahmoud to a hospital, but finally he was rescued.
The Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas strongly condemned the Tel Aviv suicide operation, saying that he gave orders to law enforcement agencies to pursue those responsible for the attack. After returning to Ramallah from Amman, Mr. Abbas condemned the suicide attack, saying that it undermines the struggle of the Palestinian people. As far as the ongoing Israeli escalation is concerned, Mr. Abbas stated that the occupation continues its unjustifiable aggression. However, these kinds of operations give the Israelis more unnecessary justifications.
The Palestinian National Authority issued a statement condemning the attack entirely. We strongly condemn this lowly operation, which undermines the struggle of the Palestinian people.
Mr. President, the Israeli escalation had been going on even before this suicide operation.
The Israeli escalation is going on, but these kinds of operations give the Israelis more and more unnecessary justifications. An explosion in the city of Tel Aviv killed 10 people, including the bomber, and injured dozens of others, according to police and medical sources. The Israeli Prime Minister-designate Ehud Olmert vowed to respond appropriately to the explosion. The Hamas movement described the act as a natural result of the Israeli aggressions and escalation. The Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas condemned the act. Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert promised an appropriate response in the future.
The state of security preparedness, which was announced by Israeli officials in anticipation of sacrifice operations targeting Israelis during their Passover holiday, did not prevent Samer Salim Mohammed, an activist in the Islamic Jihad movement, from reaching southern Tel Aviv near the area of Jenin to explode himself at the entrance of an old restaurant near the Kadima bus stop, an area which is crowded with Israelis.
In the first few minutes, we had about 6 critically injured people and 15 others in bad condition.
The number of Israeli victims who have been killed or injured is increasing. Ambulances transported dozens of injured people to various hospitals. The police and security agency deployed its forces and began investigating the operation, which came at the same time as Israelis were celebrating holding the first session of the new Knesset.
Sadly, today, which is to be a day of happiness, has turned into a day of grave sadness because of the operation that killed Israelis.
The Israeli government held the Palestinian Authority, specifically the Hamas government, responsible for the Tel Aviv operation. In a special session that will be held by the Minister of Defense Shaul Mofaz, with the attendance of security officials, Israel will study how to respond. The Prime Minister will look at their recommendations.
We are sending one message to terrorism. We will fight it by all means, without any restrictions, in order to prevent any operations of this kind and guarantee the security of Israeli citizens.
The Israeli response may be intensifying assassination operations, which targets military and political officials in various Palestinian factions, in addition to closing cities and towns in the West Bank and escalating the continuing military operations in the Gaza Strip. Perhaps Ehud Olmert will take advantage of the Tel Aviv operation to increase pressure on the Palestinians in order to strengthen his position and to appeal to the right-wing parties who already said they would join his coalition government.
The Islamic Jihad movement considered the operation a retaliation for the Israeli assassinations of leaders of the resistance, specifically Khaled al-Dahdu, the leader of the Jerusalem Brigades in Gaza, and Abu Yusuf al-Kokha, the leader of the Nasser Salah al-Din Brigades, the military wing of the Popular Resistance Front. In addition, the operation reflects the right of resistance by the Palestinian people.
The Israeli aggressions, crimes, and the massacres that this criminal enemy perpetrates against the Palestinian people have reached a point where it is impossible to keep silent. They have reached an unprecedented level, from targeted killings, starvation, sieges, and assassinations. This operation comes as a natural response by the Palestinian people and the active resistance forces to these Zionist crimes, crimes which we cannot remain silent about. We say that this wall will not protect the Zionist entity, and it will not keep them secure. This operation is absolute proof of what we are saying.
To discuss the implications of the Tel Aviv explosions, we have with us from Gaza, Sami Abu Zuhri, the spokesman for the Hamas movement. Sami, do you think that this operation, which killed and injured dozens of people in Tel Aviv, do you think it was done at an appropriate time, considering the difficult position of the Palestinian Authority?
In the name of God, the most compassionate and the most merciful, surely, considering the continued Israeli escalation, it was only natural for our Palestinian people to defend themselves. Thus, an operation like this comes as a natural response of self-defense. The Israeli occupation must be held responsible because it continues its killings and terrorism against our Palestinian people. Last week, 19 Palestinians were martyred, more than 100 others were injured, and 125 people were arrested, all in 1 week. This is just an example. So considering this situation, the issue should not be about timing. It should be about self-defense. We appeal to the international community many times to intervene in stopping the aggressions against our Palestinian people. If the Israeli occupation calmed down, then perhaps we could talk about calm on the Palestinian side. But the problem is that the occupation continues the aggression, and the international community is silent about these aggressions.
There have been many responses to this operation domestically and internationally. The White House condemned it using extreme language, and the Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas personally described this operation as lowly. Everyone has condemned it, but the Palestinian Prime Minister Ismail Haniyeh has not spoken yet. Why?
فيما يتعلق بموقف الرئيس الفلسطيني
Regarding the Palestinian president's position, we are used to this typical position on behalf of the president. Concerning the international stance, the international position is not new. In effect, the international community opened fire on the Palestinian people even before the Israelis began firing at us. And they practiced the unjust policy of starvation and economic isolation to punish the Palestinian people for their democratic choice. So we hold the international community just as responsible as the Israeli occupation for the situation we are in. The Palestinian government issued a statement clarifying its position, confirming that the Israeli occupation is responsible for this crime.
Sami Abu Zuhri, the spokesman for the Hamas movement, thank you.
شكرا جزيلا لك.
قتل في مدينة الإسكندرية بمصر شخص وجرح نحو 12 آخر.
3 men with knives attacked worshippers at 3 churches, killing a person and wounding 12 others in Alexandria, north of Egypt. An Egyptian security source said that the 3 assailants were arrested, while a 4th one was arrested before he could carry out an attack on another church in the sporting district. However, the Egyptian Ministry of Interior Affairs announced later that only 1 person was behind these attacks. This place witnessed the latest in violent incidents between Egyptian Muslims and Copts. The attack was very sudden, and its details are difficult to believe. Its perpetrator stormed the church and began stabbing people on the last day of the Coptic Great Lent, leaving traces of blood everywhere. The attack, which left 1 dead and many wounded, caused a fit of rage in Coptic circles and has left the local residents with a deep sense of anger and resentment.
وغلفت شوارع المناطق التي حدثت بها اعتداءات الكنائس هذه بأجواء احتقان شديد.
We want justice. We want justice.
مطالبات بالثأر واتهامات.
The demonstrators called for retribution and accused the Egyptian security forces, which had guarded the churches in Egypt for decades, of being lax after failing to prevent the disaster from happening. Copts dismiss official reports claiming that the attack was perpetrated by a mentally ill person. Attempts to contain the incidents have not succeeded, except perhaps to prevent further attacks. Resentment is mounting as witnesses recall the events. They say that the attacks were premeditated and that the crisis is a ticking bomb awaiting to explode.
He was not some crazy man. We all saw and heard him. Would a mentally ill man storm a church and deliberately target people in the manner he did? This is nonsense. And what about the security guards standing outside the church, supposedly to protect it? Why did they let him in?
I was standing right in front of the church. All of a sudden, I saw people rushing out. Then they closed the door. I wanted to go in to catch him, but they had closed the door. He stabbed an 80-year-old man right through his heart and killed him. Then he started running after a little girl, but her mother grabbed her and ran. The blood is right here.
Muslim-Coptic relations in Egypt are compounded by the lack of efforts to find a real solution rather than have solutions to the reasons behind this growing problem. This issue, therefore, may have become far worse than any other time.
ومعنا من القاهرة الدكتور عمرو شوبكي الخبير في مركز الأهرام للدراسات الاستراتيجية. دكتور عمرو.
Dr. Amr al-Shobaki of the Ahram Center for Political and Strategic Studies joins us from Cairo. Dr. Shobaki, this attack happened at a time when the growing tension in Egypt showed many signs in recent months. For example, the rumor about the distribution of a DVD that allegedly ridiculed the Islamic prophet and Coptic accusations that the Egyptian police concealed facts behind the disappearance of young Coptic women. Are these incidents all connected, or are the recent attacks separate?
في إطار مختلف تماما.
هو بالتأكيد إفراز حتى لو كانت يعني هذه الجريمة التي حدثت في الإسكندرية مختلفة عن المشاحنات والحوادث والاحتقانات الطائفية التي تشهدها مصر منذ فترة.
Of course, they are signs of a sectarian problem that Egypt has been witnessing for some time, but the recent attacks are different from past incidents in at least one regard. In the past, incidents like these happened because of specific problems, like the disappearance of some Christian girls, or when someone converted to Christianity or Islam, or the DVD incident. But this time, unfortunately, they reflect a deliberate and systematic attack against innocent civilians at a place of worship for no apparent reason, or previous incidents to prompt the attack. So basically, they are a reflection of an existing rift that has reached its worst this morning.
التحول النوعي مخلق بصورة كبيرة وهو في النهاية إفراز أو نتاج لحالة احتقان موجودة أخذت صورتها الأسوأ في اعتداء صباح اليوم.
هذا التحول النوعي الذي
This progression you mention is alarming in light of the Egyptian authorities' failure to look into the real reasons behind this conflict. For example, Copts make up 10% of the Egyptian population and own 20% of Egypt's financial assets. Yet, there isn't one Egyptian governor who is Coptic.
Actually, there is one governor who's Christian, but I see what you're saying.
Okay, only one among the 25 other governors, but there is not one governmental post occupied by a Copt in the 7 security bodies or the Ministry of Interior or the Ministry of Defense. And the numbers are usually within this range when we talk about Coptic Christians in Egypt. They are either completely absent or negligible.
ممكن أن أضيف عدد النواب المسيحيين أو عدد النواب في مجلس الشعب هي أيضا نسبة هزيلة جدا ولم ينجح إلا مرشح واحد. في الحقيقة
This is true for sure. I may also add that the number of Christian members of parliament is very, very small and only one candidate won in the last election. election. The fact is that there is a very real problem that the government has treated very poorly and has not attempted to solve. There has been no attempt by the government to have an open and candid discussion of the issue, or at least let Egyptians discuss this amongst themselves. Also, the political and civil repression in our country has turned the Egyptians to religion and religious affiliation. The Egyptians use the mosque and the church as a frame of reference, and consequently many have fallen prey to some sectarian and extremist demagogues. All of these factors contribute to creating a sectarian atmosphere in Egypt. In addition to the government's complete disregard for the problem and its refusal to allow an open national dialogue to take place between Muslims and Copts, the government completely disregards the problem and it refuses to allow an open national dialogue to take place between Muslims and Copts in order to find solutions and achieve full equality in rights and responsibilities.
الدولة لمطالب مشروعة يطرحها كثير من المواطنين المصريين أقباطا ومسلمين من أجل حل مشكلة المواطنة ومن أجل أن تكون هناك مساواة كاملة في الحقوق والواجبات بين المسلمين والمسيحيين.
The process of forming the new Iraqi government is deadlocked 3 months after elections. This comes as the Iraqi parliament postponed its meeting session and announced the names of the 3 individuals who will occupy the top 3 executive positions in Iraq.
The date on which the Iraqi parliament was supposed to hold a session was postponed for the second time. Political observers say that the political situation in Iraq is somewhat unstable, demanding Iraqi parliament officials to speed the political process. Some parliament members confirmed that the problems preventing the formation of the government are very simple. Kurdish parliament members said that the political process is going forward, and they do not want to consider any proposals, including a proposal for forming a national emergency government.
Talk about a national emergency government is very premature. This is a dangerous measure, and it will be in violation of the constitution and election laws. We in the Kurdish Alliance believe that forming an emergency government is premature.
The Iraqi parliament was empty except for less than 10 members. Even those who were present declined to comment on discussions of the recent meetings. Doctor, just one question, please, just one question.
No.
The parliament floor was full of journalists who were trying to acquire simple information regarding the nomination of Ali Adib for the office of the Prime Minister by the Dawah party.
Some political parties agreed to the nomination of Ibrahim Jafari, but 24 hours later, they announced that they have reservations about him. I do not want to mention any party by name. Many parties took certain political positions during parliament sessions, but then they announced in the media that they have different positions.
The Iraqi people can no longer tolerate this situation, especially when it comes to the postponement of closed-door sessions. The Iraqi public wants to see an end to political disputes between the different parties.
There's no need for what is happening. It has been 3 months. We are now in the 4th month since the elections were held, but we still do not have a government or any tangible results. Unfortunately, citizens have lost hope. What did the Iraqi people do wrong? The government has not been formed yet. There is no reason for such delay.
Nearly 4 months have passed since the elections, and Iraqis are still waiting for the formation of the government. All sects of the Iraqi people are waiting for that bright day when the government is formed. They will reap the fruits of their efforts that were exerted 4 months ago during election time.
Iranian President Ahmadinejad says the growing wave of vigilance among Muslims is weakening the enemies of Islam.
President Ahmadinejad, in a meeting with the visiting Algerian Parliament Speaker Ammar Saadani, pointed to the concrete ties between Iran and Algeria and called for boosting alliance relations between the two sides. The Algerian side, on his part, thanked Iran for holding votes gathering in Tehran and said the gathering has prepared suitable grounds for coming up with an insight as to the measures on supporting the plight of Palestinians. In a separate meeting with a host of top Muslim MPs, including Malaysian Senate Chief and Jordanian First Parliament Speaker President Ahmadinejad said the Palestine issue is a concern shared by all pro-freedom people around the world. He added a justice-based solution to the cause can be translated into a widespread solution to many problems in the world.
Iranian Parliament Speaker Ghulam Haddad Adel voices the Parliament's readiness to ratify any bill that aims to boost Iran-Algeria ties.
Haddad Adel told his visiting Algerian counterpart Emir Saadani that the third round of Tehran-Algiers Joint Commission will set the stage for further enhancement of the two sides' relations. Algerian Parliament Speaker in turn hailed Iranian Parliament for holding the Quds Conference and support for the Palestinian nation and termed the outcome as fruitful. Saadani, for his part, called for enhancement of comprehensive ties and expressed his country's solidarity with Iran's vis-a-vis foreign threats.
The Kuwaiti Emir told Iran's Visiting Expediency Council Chairman Akbar Hashemi Rafsanjani Monday that Iran can boost peace and stability in the Middle East.
On Iran's nuclear activities, the Kuwaiti Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmad Al-Jabr Al-Sabah said the recent visit by the UN nuclear watchdog chief Mohammad Al-Baradei to Iran shows that Iran has nothing to hide from the international community. Al-Sabah also called for a speedy transfer of Iran's water and gas to Kuwait. Mr. Rafsanjani, for his part, called for the enhancement of economic and trade ties and added the two sides should try their best to speed up implementation of joint projects. Rafsanjani then said Iran has observed international standards in all its nuclear activities and therefore poses no threat to any country. The Expediency Council Chairman further said Iran's commitment to the regulations of the International Atomic Energy Agency as well as Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty guarantees peaceful nature of Iran's nuclear activities. Meanwhile, Rafsanjani held a separate meeting with Kuwaiti Parliament Speaker Jassim Al-Kharafi in Kuwait City, where the two sides raised Iraqi developments and Iran's nuclear program.
United under the name of Ala Nal'ab, or Let's Play, Lebanese youth formed the Tufula organization, a non-profitable organization whose main goal is to help children suffering from cancer. Several projects are ongoing to raise funds in order to help the biggest possible number of sick children all over Lebanese hospitals. Heba Shatila and Hussein Abbas, two volunteers working to make a difference in the lives of children in need, highlighted to Future Television's Yumna Tayara the first event the organization was planning.
The first event we're going to do is Kermes in Biel, where we're going to raise money to help children suffering from cancer. We are all youth. We're now around 120 members, and we have, of course, older people advisory, for example, Mr. Kamal Sinno, who's helping us a lot, Mahmoud Jwaide, and others as well.
Yeah, actually this event is going to take place in Biel in Hall 3. It's going to be in 29th of April, 30th of April and 1st of May. It's from 10 a.m. till 7 p.m. The event is basically going to combine, our aim is to combine all the children from all Lebanon to come and join and entertain their time. At the same time, they're going to be benefiting the children suffering from cancer by raising funds. In this way, we're going to be increasing the social bondage between children that are in good health and the other 600 children which are suffering from cancer. And at the same time, we want to invite all the children suffering from cancer to this event and maybe to make this day really a remarkable day in their lives.
The views expressed on Mosaic are not those of Link TV or its sponsors, but of the broadcasters themselves. Mosaic is made possible by a grant from the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, which promotes journalism excellence worldwide and invests in the vitality of 26 U.S. communities, and the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation. Additional support is provided by the Firedoll Foundation and Henry and Virgilia Dakin. This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. For a transcript of this program, to watch streaming video, or for instructions on how to receive Link TV in the United States, visit linktv.org.